Temple, one of the go-to maps from them since pretty much square one of entering HGC North America.
You know, I'd said it just a moment ago. I mean, they're sitting at 6-2 on Sky Temple, 7-3 on Infernal Shrines. All of their battlegrounds look a lot different for Team Freedom, so no surprise that they're coming in. If they have map pick, this is what you know and can expect from them. Obviously, you know, we've seen Gale Force always kind of stick to a lot of the same bands, and you kind of wonder, is it more necessary to kind of cater towards that, or is that just another battleground you're not willing to play? And so here we go. I mean, this could be a very easy two-start for that of Team Freedom, just because familiarity and, again, the macro game. These are two very early. If you get the early control on these, it is very easy to have
a game.
A very good game, very good rotational control on these two maps.
Can manipulate it pretty easily into your favor. And I feel like Freedom really put on a clinic in the last game. How many situations did a single objective get even contested on the side of Gale Force where you go, you're on a clock here, GFE. Then it's a very, very, you know, maybe not so much a small clock, but it's definitely a small period of time.
I feel Gale Force this go-round might pass up the Maiev. I got a feeling that even if we do see the Maiev, I don't know if we will. And if we do, it'll be Michael Udall, but I'm feeling an Abathur Genji game on the side of Gale Force. And if Team Freedom anticipates that, Yoda is a fine Abathur player, might pick it up in their first two picks.
I personally would like to see that adjustment for Gale Force Esports if they end up committing to that. Mainly because not only is it objectively very powerful, it's one of the maps that you can kind of get that. Skirmishing is a place where you can at least get that early lead, but it's mainly the power spike over the early fight. It is going to allow for that Shrine phase number 1 and 2 around mid and top, and then that of the second one on bottom. You can get that Genji reset, get the high kind of play, and then not allow that Freedom macro to be oppressive, right? Yes, it's going to be a concern. From beginning to end, it's going to be a concern, but it won't be the, oh, how do we come back from this game? Because it felt like after second TP out of that last game, it very much hit that breaking point for Gale Force, and that's where you saw those moments of desperation, for instance, around the Shaman camp.
The Maiev being hovered, so even if not, again, there's got to be consideration for the Abathur no matter what. They do like to play into that Genji, maybe even a little Li Ming, which they sometimes run more on Cursed Hollow, but again, Gale Force, you got to consider. Maiev, Garrosh, do you want to go that route, or maybe we get something altogether different? I think that on this battleground versus Infernal Shrines plays a little bit more towards the rest of their draft kind of synergies, and I think this is going to be a little bit easier for them to flex in case Team Freedom does something like they did last game.
Not picking it up yet. Taking at least a little bit of time here to consider for how near standard those kind of bans were. I don't know if I want to see the Garrosh picked up from Gale Force if they go in a different direction, right, than kind of what we've been talking about so far. This map, I feel so torn on him.
He's wide open. He can just kind of be poked down. He's just like a mountain standing on an island.
It's just, it's not a good time. They end up committing to that Maiev, as you said. Personally, I want to see more punch being packed by the Maiev first pick out of Gale Force Esports. Now, this is the second week in a row we've seen them willing to get that first pick priority, and I just feel as if the level of impact that Maiev has currently when Gale Force play it is not worth what their first pick should be. That in mind, it's not like they're going to get it later in the draft, right? It makes sense as to why we see them sticking with it there. I just want to see them at least, if you aren't going to, you know, kind of get that impact, at least make sure the comp has the tools to be equally as impactful. Last time in this rotation, that's where we saw the Johanna and that Malfurion come out, rather than the options of the Stukov plus insert your, you know, offensive warrior.
I see the Maiev Dread, and now when I think about Genji in that composition, Maiev, Genji, they're both kind of all in. They do their best damage when they're in closer quarters. Yes, you can get some range with your Fan of Knives. Yes, you can get some range with your Shurikens, but it's when these heroes go all in. And I think that that style against a Garrosh is a little bit more threatening than Maiev. If you're not going Maiev, then the Abathur, Genji, whatever else, I think sounds a lot better. So for Gale Force, we get our Stukov. They don't want the Jaina band out against them this game.
Yeah, and having that Stukov as well, very offensive, very skirmish focused here for Gale Force. And to be honest, this is exactly what I was hoping for. We posed that Genji, you know, Abathur opportunity, but this is the same thing-ish, just very different composition, obviously, how it unfolds. But these guys can go head-to-head battles starting as early as level 1. Every one of these heroes on the side of Gale Force Esports brings the pain, brings the fight. That being said, it's not like Malfurion and Garrosh is anything to laugh at, and by no means does Gale Force, you know, pull ahead in this draft, but it puts them, at least playstyle-wise, showing that they're ready to fight and not let that snowball happen in favor of Freedom.
I'm just trying to figure out. So last week and in the previous weeks, we've had Zugrug on the Garrosh. We see a Johanna hover here on the side of Team Freedom. But it's kind of like last time, Infernal Shrines, everybody's kind of in the same spot. Now we've got Team Freedom with the Garage in a much more open environment. Is Zugra going to be able to find the same opportunities, and is he going to be willing to pull that trigger that we were questioning at the earlier part? In Infernal Shrines, it's easier because you know that they're going to be coming at you. You know that you're within a small little bubble that you're generally working in. Sky Temple, Garage, always terrifying.
Yeah.
Is this going to be the same outcome?
I would argue it depends on what we see with the rest of the picks coming up from Freedom. But I would say in the last game, not only because of the map, but also some of the compositional advantages with that slow, sustained fight that Team Freedom had. Garage didn't have to have that kind of all-in, now I can force, because everyone else was so good at this slow, long fight that Garage could be weak in it and not have to go be like, oh, I'm holding my own. You have Leo sacrificing everything, buying a bit of time. And so it made it to where it was more than just the map. And so I do actually question that. If we don't see that same level of commitment with distractions towards initiations, does Freedom's Garage look, as crisp and clean as game one? I'm going to say I doubt it, but you know what? I'm ready to be proven wrong. Always happy to be proven wrong here at HGC.
Team Freedom, obviously we've got the Phoenix banned now, Hanzo banned out, Jaina taken away. Genji has been a prominent hero for Lutano in the past. He's excelled on that hero pretty well. A lot of Greymane has fallen off since we've had Phoenix kind of enter in. We saw one minor change towards Greymane. He normally falls at the back end of the draft, but now here seems to be missing this entire weekend until now.
Get that Greymane for that top siege capabilities that Team Freedom really enjoys to kind of unleash. Also with that Dahaka, talk about a lot of crowd control, decent amount of macro play, especially here from Freedom's composition, but I'm not going to use the word dated because it isn't fair to claim this one as dated. Dahaka and Greymane are very much within the meta, but they have kind of fallen out and aren't as, objectively as powerful as we typically see, especially for that backliner synergy. I'm wondering if I feel like it's going to be hurt too much. Hold on, though. We got to see what we get from Gale Force first.
But I still think there's an outside shot on an Abathur somewhere in these drafts. Because I'm thinking about Team Freedom. A Greymane clone is definitely there. It's a Yoda hero. You're already kind of doubling down on the global because you have the Dahaka, which makes me a little less on it. But then I start thinking about Yoda heroes. Where do you go? Jaina's not there. Gul'dan not as high priority. He could switch off to an old school Li Ming.
Yeah.
That's still available and might be necessary if Gale Force goes ETC here.
Yeah, it depends what they end up picking. Blaze, Arthas. Interesting. Definitely making those auto attackers plus that Abathur you were talking about a lot less appealing now that we see ourselves in Arthas picked up for Gale Force Esports. Slows on slows in this comp. Very beefy. Man, other than, the Stukov, everything about this comp is terrifying from Gale Force, and I only say the Stukov. Stukov does accent the early game kill potential, but when it comes to that slow, long fight, that normally I would say Gale Force has this insane, slow, chase you down problem. Stukov doesn't have the healing to cater to that playstyle as well as people like Malfurion, but it's not going to be that big of a setback. Lurking Arm should make up for it.
Maiev tethers, Stukov slows, Jaina slows, Blaze slows, Arthas slows.
Jet propulsions.
I mean, we're just going to get locked, rooted, stunned, slowed, everything. They end up with a Tracer.
Tracer is extremely good against the Arthas, and most people, you would be like, well, Dread, you talk about not picking auto attack target or people whenever you're against an Arthas. Tracer, if you're getting affected by Arthas' slow, you're probably dead no matter what hero that would have been on the other side of the battlefield anyways. You should not be able to get in that range to get affected and just, throw out the pew-pews. So I like the fact that we do see that as an adjustment. It's going to make Arthas second-guess himself a lot. It's pretty much near impossible to hitting Howling Blast on a Tracer. So I like it. It's going to make him, at least very, very vulnerable on the front line for a majority of that game. And suddenly that Arthas that was originally like, hey, would you want to Abathur? It looks like a problem. Got counterplayed.
It did in a big way, and that's the thing is that Greymane can be flexed off. Greymane will likely be Yoda in the circumstance, allowing Lutano to be on that Tracer. So now all of a sudden you look at Stukov. One thing, if he doesn't have his bio kill switch available, he's susceptible to burst damage. Jaina, it's very hard to stack up and hit that 15,000 damage on chill targets on Sky Temple because sometimes you kind of trade off on temples. The skirmishes aren't as frequent. All of a sudden that ice block is very, very late game if it ever comes at all. So now that backline, a little bit more susceptible to Tracer.
But there's a Blaze, which is
hop in a bunker.
It's a huge difference because we got to remember this. We saw the Thrall, picked up before the Blaze was saying, hey, if you would like the Blaze, it's going to be a problem. Then we saw the Team Freedom adjust to that Leo in the back half of the draft. So there is at least that big of a difference when looking at the compositions between game 1 and 2. But I share a bit of the same sentiment here. I will say if you were to remove the names from these teams, I think I fall in favor of GFE. But it's with the, dominance we got in Game 1 from Freedom that makes you go kind of second guess yourself.
Yeah, you know, Dredd, you and I had an opportunity to talk to Lutano when we were at the Western Clash, and it was, you know, when Tracer was definitely the hotness, as evidenced by Dignitas and then Method with Schwempy, and then, you know, North America started to catch on, and Lutano's like, look, I've been spamming Tracer nonstop. Like, I'm ready, I'm prepared. You know, obviously things didn't go their way for Team Freedom at the Clash, but it's definitely something that he's like, look, I need to add this to my arsenal. He's had plenty of time to practice, and in the hands of a skilled player like Lutano, has a very high ceiling in terms of what we could potentially see, especially on a map like Sky Temple, where you can get run down for a long ways.
Yeah, the distance to safety can become very difficult very, very quickly on a map like this. Gale Force end up going for the trade over the mid lane. Interesting choice from them. They should have at least rotational advantage when it comes to the wave clear, thanks to the lack of wave clear from beginning to end on Team Freedom's draft. Dahaka is one of their best wave clear, and that is a rare statement that you can ever kind of pull true. So Gale Force should be able to pull ahead. The question is, do they get kills with it, right? Their comp is built. We talked about the 1-2-3 that I wanted to see from them. We got it. But can they make something happen with it? Mike Udall on that Maiev needs to get a lot of tethers, set up Jaina, Stukov, and Arthas to just, I mean, legitimately make it to where you can never run away from that lurking arm.
That's going to be the plan. See if they can execute again. Having that Jaina this go-around, they weren't willing to let it get to that second ban this time like it was last game. Like, look, we need kill potential. We have the Maiev. We know where we're going to get Biggie and potentially his best. And his best in this game, according to Gale Force, is going to be on the Jaina.
There goes the first root attempt here. Lurking arm going to get the follow-up. Jaina damage is there, but not enough to get the kill onto Yoda.
Level 7 Jaina is going to look a lot scarier because it's just like, look, I'm just going to... Here's one Q, here's another. Okay, yeah, you're dead.
Yeah, there's enough slows there to make sure they, and more importantly, damage, you know, out from that Jaina to make sure they get the kill. Both teams going to back out, look towards their night camps here. This is very common practice, especially for Team Freedom. They were one of the first in North America after the adjustments that came into the game in 2018 to get this early priority over the top half of the map and then pressure down the front walls, while then they can get the priority onto the top shrine, and then they get themselves a fort very, very early on. One thing I will say, that though we have seen this time and time again, that one thing we haven't seen North America adjust with that playstyle, Fury, can he dodge this drag? I don't think so. Is it enough? Pulls bomb out. Nah, he's going to be just fine there.
Early scaling changes a little bit different now in Tracer.
Pulse bombs do not get the one-shot starting early game. But what I was going to say is just at least if they do not force this fort 100%, I want to see them go to I, feign some kind of lack of interest towards that top fort, and then 5-man commit all at the same time and lock it in. It's something we've seen a lot of times out of Ballistics within the Korean region. And, you know, I heard they're pretty good at Sky Temple. You know, just...
Don't tell that to KSV today. I don't remember the map choices, but if you haven't caught that KSV versus Ballistics series, spoiler alert, one of the teams dominated. And
nice.
It wasn't Ballistics.
Dang. KSV fighting back here, but we got ourselves the first temples. What is the rotation going to be here? Again, Team Freedom normally has put a lot of priority towards that top half. Nasmus not going to pull out that drag at least quite yet, as the tether is consumed there by Mike Udall. Shots on mid being stalled out greatly by Team Freedom. Zugruk doing an amazing job there, being able to get the stall. What that means is they can rotate from top back down to mid if they can stall this a little bit longer and really force the fight after finishing that top altar.
It's just so hard to get a lock onto Lutano. A lot of it is going to be on Michael Udall to make sure that he can land a tether onto that Tracer to try and pull him, because crowd control, as you said, landing that Howling Blast onto a Tracer, Dredd, I mean, you've got to be, I mean, Fury is probably one of the few people I would say, all right, I trust it. But even then, he would admit, like, look, the percentage of me landing this, probably not very good. So, Michael Udall, please help.
Yeah, the best way to kind of put, the only way I see that happening is once Arthas finishes his level 1 Howling Blast quest, right?
And
then it's purely because it's the train. And then it's just like, okay, well, now you have to blink in left or right, or you're going to get hit, right? And most of the Tracers are still willing to blink back, and they might be able to get caught kind of in that range. But Mike Udall possibly caught out here for a moment, but now also the slow being used there onto Zugrug. He's going to have a hard time making it out. Lurking arm going to be dropped, but Nasmus joining the fight. Mike Udall falling low. Yoda with the last auto attack gets first blood here for Team Freedom. Drag coming in from Nasmus sets up kill number 2. And they're not done here. Lutano on that Tracer trying to cut around the Blaze, getting the damage out, but not going to get the kill. Lurking arm goes down, doesn't secure a kill. Team Freedom is dismantling Gale Force Esports on this skirmish.
B-Kid has fully committed. He saw that Tracer take so much damage. He's not going to be long. But B-Kid saw a lot of damage on Tracer because the fort was still alive and started targeting it the minute the minions went down. B-Kid fully committed when he probably should have banked out. He couldn't get the Tracer, so he's like, well, I'll kill the person that's healing you. He could still heal himself, and unfortunately, B-Kid overcommitted. That was all 5 members on the side of Gale Force that fell.
I will say that is, without a doubt, you know, as a guy who did spend, most people don't know this, but a small period of time in my professional career on the Warriors in the front lines, one of the most frustrating things out of that role when you are playing it is whenever you have that, you know, this person should be dead, and you're like, I can't kill him. I don't have the damage. I'm an offlaner. I'm a warrior. I don't have the opportunity. I'm not Diablo. Not everybody can get that one shot, one kill. Hold up, though. Invade here from Team Freedom, bringing out the fight, using those 10s, you know. Pretty much the world is theirs at this point in time, especially those 23 seconds out from those shots on bottom.
It's going to be a fun one. We do see the cursed bullet, which means they're trying to get the toss back. Will we get the isolation, or excuse me, the Twilight Dream to go with that to really just kind of make sure that whoever gets back there does not get out? Obviously, Tranquility does see quite a bit of play nowadays, and with the threat of 10 Dreadnought, you can see Gale Force wants nothing to do with this, and this is what we talked about pre-game, Dread, is that whenever Team Freedom gets a lead, especially on a map like Sky Temple, it's basically the smooth sailing from here. They just put the sail up, kick back, relax, open a nice cold water on the open sea.
Because you got to stay hydrated when you're professionally gaming.
You can't drink salt water.
No, yeah.
It actually dehydrates you more.
Yeah, you got to try and avoid that one.
I learned that one in my time in
Plus,
Florida.
let's be real here. If you spend enough time on the internet, nobody needs extra salt.
You can't spell. Never mind.
Oh,
either way,
I had to hear what that was going.
We've got up in the top lane. Gale Force is trying to regain some control here as we've hit. We've hit the top. We've hit level 10 here. We are going to see no Ring of Frost to try and follow up on a potential stun lockdown Warden's Cage. Instead, Water Elemental, very common for Gale Force. The boss was picked up as well, so just drawing more attention for Gale Force. And Team Freedom, they recognize they don't have to risk this. They don't have talent tier advantage. They just picked up a boss. Why not see what they can get elsewhere? Yes, you're going to give up a lot of this temple, but in terms of the long term, the risk versus reward, this is the safe play. We will say, however, that giving a lot up right now, is it too safe?
I would say it's at the threshold of maybe too safe, but it also is Sky Temple, and again, Team Freedom, very, very scary onto this map. It is, again, that kind of breaking point, though, that we've been asking, especially after the results, I feel like, of last week. That was definitely the first time that we ever saw Freedom, and it wasn't, is this too passive? It was, this is definitely too passive. What is happening here? You know, and I guarantee that's something that they've been looking to work on, and I feel like we've seen that in moments. That siege over the bottom half, though, again, E10 into 8 spike is a pretty easy objective to kind of force out. We still see Freedom, for the majority of the time, not giving up any advantage available, and they're going to continue that here with the 13s closing in, Night Camp sieging towards the top half. Might be able to get damage and force that to be next Shrine phase a keep. Warlord's Challenge comes out. Same with the heals there as the Army of the Dead's going to be popped. We see that Jet Propulsion locked down with the Lurking Arm. No escape there for Garrosh. He is silenced for a literal hour. He ends up dropping there. Now Fury trying to kite out. Mikey Dahl with the 3-man tether uses the Vault, now gets the pull back. Another 2-3 kills here. Gale Force Esports now using that slow, that crowd control I was talking about before, making it impossible to retreat for Freedom. They get 4 kills for nada.
The overcommitment was real there, Dreadnought. It seemed like once that first night camp went down that there was no reason to kind of go, but a lot of that was set up by Fury. It all started with Fury hiding in the bush, letting things kind of happen. He survived through that because the taunt is a silence. He had popped Army before that. He got ripped with the cursed bullet, hit that out, and the minute he got unsilenced, he's like, look, I can heal. They had a hard time taking down the Garrosh because Tranquility was out, ended up getting enough damage, and the Pulse Bomb obviously hitting a 100% health target, not able to thread the needle and get the lockdown. All of a sudden, Gale Force finds themselves right back in this game.
See what Gale Force can do over this next Shrine phase, because though they are in this game, it is still structurally pretty heavily in favor of Team Freedom as that bottom 4 still stands. Not even looking at the key front walls, we've already seen a bit of damage on the bottom half for Team Freedom after that boss was picked up. Gale Force kind of poking and prodding around the Giant camp.
Might have another fight here. See, they're
Brush
already
Dog
looking to come in. Brush Dog, but the Army is out. There's the isolation onto the backside. That's going to be onto the Stukov, who's under assault. Finds his way into the bunker. He's going to be safe, but Nazmus, he's forced to burrow under. Not a lot of essence is going to be there into the fray. Not going to save him. That's going to be Garrosh and Ahaka going down. Malfurion third to fall, and Gale Force hitting the nitrous here with Blaze and team as they are all of a sudden lighting Team Freedom up.
Well, there's one thing that I definitely think Team Freedom, if they didn't know it before this game, they definitely know it now, is that if you choose to take a fight into Gale Force, you can't walk away from it. You have to be able to take it. When you're in there, you are in. And Gale Force is just constantly getting, again, those slows, the lockdown. It's going to get worse when we get post 16. I'm expecting that root to come in from Jaina. Wintermute on top of that. It's going to be very difficult to get that kind of retreat, and they need to find a way to not allow that to happen. If they end up losing one person, cutting their losses quickly and not letting the snowball of this composition for Gale Force kind of get out of hand. Gale Force, though, not going to have the 16s quite yet, and because of that, Freedom zoning off this top objective. Lutano trying to get the track down. Post bomb goes in. Fury's not going to make it out.
Bunker not there. B-Kid now, he's trying to walk away. Nasmus, he's going to get slowed down. Akaface and team. Biggie, they're coming in for the flank, forced to use all their heroics just for the disengage. Now Gale Force finds themselves down a member. There's still about 60% of the shots left in that top temple. See if Gale Force tries to find a way to re-engage.
See what Gale Force does with those Giants. They know the shots are taken on top. They have the 16 advantage, but they aren't willing to force the fight. Man, this is a curious moment on the side of Gale Force Esports. You've got to be wondering what the comms are looking like at this moment.
Like, it's fine. We're now even in terms of forts down. We'll see how much more damage comes in here. Garrosh alone up at the top. He should be able to complete that channel. The rest of Gale Force, you can see just kind of hiding, seeing if anybody's going to take the bait. But the minute they see Dahak at the bottom and they see this ping here, they're going to know Team Freedom nowhere near the other side, and it's all because of the control of the vision over the eye. You can see all members of Gale Force hovering just around that outside portion. They know they can't step out and give up their own. Just kind of play it even and wait for the next one.
They do end up making this rotation down. Camp's on top. The minion wave is weighted pretty heavily in favor of Freedom, so it should pull ahead with time. Gale Force worried about the boss. Now going to get the collapse on a Nasmus. Nasmus, no shrubs available for some time. He's going to start with the brush dog, no tether. And that's now a kill. And look at that. Okay, one thing I want to note that he did that was very, very smart here is that he did not global to the other side of the map. The first instinct almost every Dahaka player has is go to all the way to the other side of the map. And I was going to say that's important because then they can contest this boss, provide vision over this boss. That in mind, Team Freedom nowhere to be found around the boss. It's not going to be the trade-off. It does, again, provide free scouting. But that could have been one of those, oh man, where's my Dahaka moments if Team Freedom wanted to get that kind of contest. He's even going to isolate. They're going for this keep.
This is a big play here. We're going to see if Warden's Cage is enough. There's going to be a taunt onto two people. Tranquility is out. Michael Udall trying to get out of there. He uses the vault. He just gets into the bunker, hops right back out, but he's going to be taken down the minute he pops out. Two members down on the side of Gale Force. Not enough here to try and thwart this. If Gale Force drops any more members, Dread, this is going to be game over.
Yeah, flailing swipe has to be forced there because Lutano got way too much damage onto Akaface, stuck in that lurking arm. Well, he's still trying to make work happen onto Collusion. The Night Camp still alive and available. First keep of the game going to Freedom. Freedom now going to move up, try and end this game here. 4 versus 3 on the defense. Lurking arm combo going to be thrown down. Howling Blast does end up landing onto Yoda. Yoda is all the damage on the core. They need to make sure they slow him down. Kill number 1 going to come in onto Jaina. Shielding on the core is removed. Freedom, they're looking to take game 2.
70% and falling is going to be that of the core of Gale Force, and that looks like it should be enough. Team Freedom coming through in the clutch. The boss was given up, but Team Freedom once more using that macro control. They understood that they could get there, and the defense between Michael Udall and B-Kid there, Dread, seemed a bit ambitious to try and defend there. I understand the Warden's Cage and the zoning, but it was just a little bit missed the mark, but you can credit Nasmus there. It's like, isolation, is it worth it? Heck yeah, it's worth it. As he gets the isolation, delays one member back. The other two were left trying to clear up. All of a sudden you had a 5 versus 2 on the top, and you got the kills, got the game.
I would argue that is byproduct of the false sense of security of keeps. For everybody at home going, you know, maybe, hey, why is my average game time so much longer than the average HGC game time? It's probably that top full keep, that exact situation is because, ladies and gentlemen, our keeps in Heroes of the Storm do focus and prioritize minions above all else. And with that, that means if there is one minion, if there are a lot of minions, especially with how many Freedom had, they go, the keep is not a defensive tool. There is no third turret back there to be able to save you, help you whatsoever. This is our dive, our thing to take. And those 2 members of Gale Force look at that and they go, we got to